I can only find 2 developer streams that Thor actually brings up code on the screen in.
I thought that he codes live. What?
He does not actually do any coding.
I'm telling you right now, he does AI for coding.
You don't need to be a game developer to know that that's a lot more maintainable than whatever Thor has here.
What I'm hearing is that Thor's code is unnecessarily convoluted for the sake of it.
That's what I would expect out of an intern that's fresh out of school.
That's insane. It's so Thor to do, to have like poorly written selfish code only he can interpret.
My last job was hacking power plants for the federal government.
I'm a hacker for the government.
This guy had the cold to call, buy me $5,000 worth of Target gift cards job.
He wrote phishing emails.
I wasn't serious, but I was right. Ma'am, do not redeem it.
His GitHub is also totally empty because he has nothing to show for his 20 years of experience as a veteran in the space.
This video is actually destructive to Thor's character.
Just another YouTube grifter trying to fight for relevance, dude.
Everybody's a grifter. I wonder if he actually believes he's as good as he says. He's like gaslit himself into thinking that he's actually like worth something. Dude, I'm literally getting a spam call right now, bro. It's pirate software. I'm actually really interested in these I'm curious about these pirate software like code videos. Hold on, we want to watch this first one as I reviewed pirate software's code. Oh boy.
Because literally anything would be better than this. What is up, guys? Coding Jesus here.
That was a hell of an intro.
Guys, today we will be
This is the quality of the microphone improves like 4 minutes, huh?
doing a code review of a popular YouTuber and streamer by the name of Thor or Pirate.
I almost feel bad for pirate software if he wasn't just so arrogant. Like, he's wrong about a lot of things. It's not that he's wrong, because, like, oh, what is he wrong about? Like, he's not the greatest at playing a classic WoW mage and shit like that. So it's like, it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? But he's such a dick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's such an asshole about... He's not only just wrong, he's a fucking dickhead, too. He thinks he's right, though. So when you call him a dickhead, he's just like, oh, okay. So I'm right. You just think I'm rude about it. It's like, no, you're fucking dumb as hell.
Pirate software. Now, why should you care, and who the hell is Thor? Well...
Because it's fun to care, dude. It's funny.
Thor has been the talk of the town as of recently, as he's been an extremely large streamer that has come out against a pro-consumer movement in the gaming space called Stop Killing Games.
Oh, man. I just don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Why would you be against people, like, especially for single-player games, having a pathway to play, like, to own the game that they paid, like, $70 for? It makes no sense unless you're trying to stifle creativity, right? Because it's like, oh, we could just shut down the game. This is a single-player game, but you have to be on the internet, so we could just shut it down whenever we want. So for what reason? To make us rebuy a shittier, upgraded version of it, potentially? Like, that stifles creativity. It just allows you to have, like, full dictation over stuff that I buy. It's weird. Everything's a subscription now? It doesn't make any sense. What is this, like, fucking... I swear to God, it's like video games have turned into OnlyFans. That's what this is. Video games turn to OnlyFans. They decide, like, oh, we made this game, we make you pay $70 for it, plus whatever else, blah, 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 but we can kill it at any time. Why? Unless you're just trying to fucking farm money out of people. That's what it reads to me as. You're just trying to farm money. You want to be able to, like, not offer the service anymore and then ask for more money for a slightly better or even worse game that you want to put out with slightly better graphics that could potentially suck. With, like, why?
Stop Killing Games is an initiative launched by a man named Ross Scott, who is an advocate for consumers in the video game space. The purpose of Stop Killing Games is to prevent publishers from revoking access of games from people who have paid to play those games.
Yeah.
There are plenty of examples out there of publishers.
And it's so funny, too, because it's both live service games and also MMOs. But Ross even said in his video, he was like, guys... You have to, like, you basically, it's like you have to lawyer it up. Like, you know, we start with asking everything and concessions can come later. So if we ask for everything and they're like, you know, we're going to make a law where you have to do it just for live service games, just for single player live service. Oh, we won. He's even said that in his video, even clarified that. It's fucking crazy. But of course, Pirate has no interest in, like, actually listening to anything that's being said. So
publishers that produce games that require online access to play, but once they pull the plug from their servers, consumers now stop having access to those games. The Stop Killing Games movement is looking to advocate on behalf of consumers in order to mandate that game publishers and game developers have some sort of end-of-life plan for games such that they can continue to be played after the developer would like to stop supporting them. To me, that makes total sense.
Yep.
It doesn't sound fair and isn't right for you to be sold a game as a good, but for it to effectively be a service with an unknown expiration date that the company can not support at any time.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's like if you buy a fucking oil burner, like, you know, you're going to want to get a contract from the oil burner company, even if they sold it to you, because you want it to be maintained, but you don't need the contract to use the fucking oil burner. Why the fuck do I need, like, it's like if you stop paying the contract, the oil burner company comes and just takes the oil burner you paid for. Well, yeah, I know you paid the full price of an actual oil burner, but you were actually just paying for the price of us letting you have the oil burner in your house as long as you keep paying us. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. I buy an oil burner and then I buy a separate contract for a fucking company. It's ridiculous. It's fucking stupid.
Okay. Now, why am I picking on Thor here in particular? Well, Thor has not only what appears to be lied about his experience, or at the very minimum played it off as something that it's really not.
Yeah, but his dad worked for Blizzard, and so did he.
But he's also misrepresented the initiative and has doubled and
He just really pissed off a bunch of fucking sweaty video gamers, and it's just true. It is what it is, dude. You get don't mess with us gamers, dude.
tripled down in that misrepresentation.
If you're going to be putting forward something that you want to start a conversation to eventually become legislation, and these are the reasons for it, not only can I not agree with the initiative, but I can't agree with you, and I won't agree with Ross. There's no way around that. I think this is gross. To sum it all
I think it's gross. What? He thinks it's gross. He thinks it's gross, guys. He doesn't just disagree with it. He thinks it's fucking gross. It's incredible.
up, no, I will not be supporting the initiative Stop Killing Games.
Cryptically wishing
Whoa.
for the movement to fail.
So I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't even think it's cryptic. He wants the movement to fail because he thinks it'll kill video games.
I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you want.
I'm really upset, guys. Guys, I'm upset. I'm butthurt. So now I hope that you get hurt.
I don't know why you do that, but he decided to do so. He doesn't even have to agree with the movement. He just needs to admit that he misrepresented it. Now, other creators have reviewed this drama to no end. And
It's just so funny because he just has to stop being such a fucking loser. Like, dude, just have some fucking humility. Grow up. You're like 40 years old. Grow the fuck up. Have some fucking humility. Just admit that you're fucking wrong sometimes, pussy. I wonder if he thinks that, like, him potentially admitting to being wrong will, like, fucking ruin his reputation or something. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense.
and have gone over his employment history and timeline. But what I want to do that I guess would make this video unique is go over his actual code from his developer live streams and analyze whether this guy has the skills that he claims he has as a 20-year veteran and game developer working for Blizzard and other game publishers, etc.
My name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about
Is his middle name really Thor? Or, like, what is that? What?
20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name.
Wait, did you guys know this guy used to work for Blizzard? That's fucking crazy.
It's an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now.
Now, why should you guys listen to me about any of this? Well, I'm a C++ developer with 5 years of experience in the quantitative trading space.
Oh, dude, you're using a lot of words. I'm getting really horny.
I've read dozens of books on C++ and over half a dozen books just on C++ design, from influencers in the space to professors to people that also have YouTube channels to time-tested and trusted books. I've read a lot, and while I'm not an authority in C++, I'm pretty likely to be somebody that can suss out a bad practice if I see one.
Well, isn't C++ like the foundational thing that you kind of like a little bit of it so they can carry over to different languages? No?
At least I hope. I also have a bunch of open source contributions in C++ on projects that I find interesting, like Monero. Now, when I was
Some malaria?
making notes for this video, because I like to come prepared, I thought I need to go
I don't, dude. I never have a tissue around when I do it.
through dozens of different developer streams. But what I found out really quickly is that I can only find 2 developer streams that Thor actually brings up code on the screen in, and in
I thought that he codes live. What?
those developer streams, he does not actually do any coding. The code is just visually there on the screen.
And maybe I'm wrong. I thought that was the point of it, was to do coding live. Dude, I'm telling you right now. He does AI for coding. I'm telling you. And you want to know what? It's not even necessarily a bad thing because AI is a tool that everybody should probably start using, but you should still have fundamental knowledge. But I guarantee that this motherfucker uses AI code, but he likes to pretend that he doesn't. Instead of being honest, he's just lying. I feel like that's what it is. And I could be wrong, but I feel like this dude uses AI for coding and he'll just never admit it. So he has AI code for him and he doesn't know how to fix it so it looks like fucking sloppy dog shit. I think that that's what it actually is more than anything else. I genuinely think that this guy just uses AI for coding and has no idea how to fix his code afterwards. I don't know. I think that makes sense to me with my simpleton brain.
And 98%
But also, I haven't worked for Blizzard for 7 years, so
of the actual stream is
this
him
code's too bad to be AI. Come on, dude. There's no way it can be that bad, bro. Come the fuck on.
looking at his subscribers, looking at his tip jar as to how much money people have sent him, and also looking at videos about games.
Wait, does he make good money when he's doing his Does he make good money when he's doing his like developer streams? Maybe that's why he will never finish his fucking game.
But never actually doing any game development in a dev stream. Without further ado, let's actually take a look at some of his code. Alright, so I'm going to be linking these VODs in the description box below. I recommend people actually download these VODs before he takes them down, because honestly, if I was claiming I'm a game developer with 20 years of experience, this would be embarrassing to have online.
It's fucking frying this guy.
Let's take a look at what's really wrong about this, and I don't even need to be a game dev to understand that. When you look at the code here, what do you see? You see a lot of magic numbers. That's an industry term for numbers that don't have any description or explanation as to what they are or why they exist.
So it's just like extra code slop. You guys don't think that extra code slop would could exist like from AI? I feel like that makes sense.
You also have a lot of true or false, which is not descriptive at all. When you look at any function call as another developer, you should understand what's going on without needing to read through the implementation of the actual method itself. So part type sprite, part type size, I don't need to read through that to understand what's being passed to it and what it's doing. But that's not what's going on here. I shouldn't need to ask myself, what is this number 1? What is the 0? What does it signify? Right? Imagine we have a car object. And I create the car object by passing in 96.
Are you just talking about like a car that like in a game, I'm assuming?
4 false false. Do you have any idea about what those numbers mean?
I don't know the size of the car.
How I'm initializing that car? You don't. A step above that, a better alternative would be to specify in words what 96 means. For example, unsigned 32-bit integer horsepower equals 96.
Okay, so you assign something to letters, or excuse me, not to a number, and then that will dictate what it does. Okay, I mean that makes sense to me fundamentally. You have an action that you. What he's saying it sounds to me like you have an action, and then you assign that action to a number, and then you assign that number to a thing so that it will engage in that action.
Number of doors equals 4. Is automatic equals false. Is electric equals false. And then pass that into the construction of car. That is the bare minimum. That's what I would expect out of an intern that's fresh out of school.
Oh, fuck, that's insane.
Taking that a step further, you can implement a concept called strong typing, which is the most expressive form of instantiation. What we can do in that case is define an alias at the bare minimum or a class, and we can call it horsepower. And then we can create an enumeration for things like transmission or fuel. And then we'd alter the car's constructor and pass in that information: horsepower 98, door number 4, transmission automatic, fuel gasoline. You don't need to be a game developer to know that that's a lot more maintainable than whatever Thor has here.
So what I'm hearing is that Thor's code is unnecessarily convoluted for the sake of it. Dude, AI code. Basically, this code is impossible to interpret, and this becomes an issue when coming back to projects months later. This is terrible practice. Okay, so okay. Are you saying that his issue isn't that his code doesn't work? His issue is that his code is so unorganized that you will forget what the fuck he's talking about instantaneously, like coming back to it. Is that what you're saying? Because then he would just talk back and be like, well, guys, I know what the code means. Guys, I know what the coding means. It doesn't really matter. You guys are just haters. I worked at Blizzard for 17,000 years. I'm a Chad. Guys.
Another really good example of that is at 2556.
Guys, I like it when my code is impossible for other people to understand. Yeah, I'm actually down to work at Blizzard a lot.
So if we jump there...
More or less. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay, right here. Alarm 0.
You write say someone that never worked on a team? Interesting. I understand what that means. I understand. Like in super layman's terms, what you're telling me is that like he's doing literally anything that you would use some kind of like a shared drive with, and he's mislabeling everything so that only he knows what it is. Right? Like he's sitting here and he's just like, oh, this is where you put all the finished product. We're gonna call that Dunzo, motherfucker. You know? So you're like, what the fuck is Dunzo? You're like, oh, it's done. Come on, idiot. Like, well, you don't know that?
Alarm 1, alarm 2. What is that? What are those alarms? Is it an alarm for
I say they're annoying. It's when I'm waking up.
person A, an alarm for whatever character, an alarm to do what? It's unexpressive. It's really spaghetti code, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Okay, let's go to round.
To be honest with you, not to give Thor too much credit, it's so Thor. It's so Thor to do, to have like poorly written selfish code that like only he can interpret, so that he can be some kind of like, he can maintain dominance over whatever project he's doing, and like even be condescending to you when you don't understand his like bizarre way of thinking.
1 hour and 4 minutes. This is also a complete mess for a couple of reasons. First of all, Thor is using the incorrect data types. This isn't even getting to some sort of advanced design or design pattern. It's showing a complete lack of understanding how to represent information in a program. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, look at question asked equals 0. Question asked, in my opinion, is true or false. Has this question been asked? It should be a Boolean data type. What does 0 mean?
I'm assuming it means no. I understand. He's saying that the code is just like weirdly written at this point. It's like, okay, it sounds like it works, but it's just strange. Or it's not industry standard. Is that what he's saying? Because some of this seems like it's almost pedantic. But if it's not industry standard, it would make sense where he's like, dude, it's not even industry standard. It doesn't really make any sense to a lot of people. It's confusing. It doesn't seem like he's worked for Blizzard like he keeps saying he does. Is that part of the claim? Because I could see that being like another part of this.
Booleans are represented as integers under the hood. So in C++, anything that isn't 0 is true. So 1 is true.
Yeah.
But why would you even give another developer the option to write question asked equals 42?
Would that be, I mean, in case you were like making a game that had a script to it, like a Telltale game? You know, it's like, oh, yes or no. I mean, and I might be oversimplifying what yes and no is in this context, but would that be a reason why you would potentially do that?
In theory, that should be true, because anything other than 0 is true. But why even allow somebody to write code that can potentially be that confusing?
I know it's all part of like a greater narrative. Do we know exactly what the code is relevant to? Like, is it relevant to like a multiple choice answer? Is that what it's like that for? I mean, I guess that could be possible.
It's just a no-go. Another thing here that I noticed is the absurd amount of comments. Most of the time, you don't need to write comments in your code. That's because
why would you write comments in your code? Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. Why would you need to write comments in your code unless your code was so confusing that other people who wanted to work on your code would need you to give comments because, again, you're being super fucking confusing about your shitty-ass code.
Code should be self-documenting, but there is a 1 to 5% case rate in which you should be writing comments only if your code is extremely complex. And that's not the case here.
I mean, well, that's not true, right? The code seems to be extremely complex. It just doesn't need to be extremely complex. That's what I'm hearing.
This is a simple if statement and a simple switch statement. You don't need to add comments here. Having a comment for we have asked the question and question asks equals 1 is totally superfluous, a waste of time, a waste of space. I'm not sure why it was added, if not just to waste time on a dev stream, to spend more time pretending you're coding than watching videos.
That's fucking crazy.
Okay, let's take a look at his second stream, because the rest of
generally speaking, comments shouldn't be about what, it should be about why. Okay.
This stream is reviewing other games, looking at his subscription count. I don't know why he gets so horny looking at this.
Dude, that's so funny.
Watching.
It's so funny that this guy's trying to be so professional. He's just like, this guy's a fucking loser. It's just so funny.
Video games, etc. You guys get the point. Storyline array number. Oh my god. Here he appears to be storing a timeline of events in a flat one-dimensional array with random numbers as the indices in order to represent said event. So literally anything would be an upgrade over what is written here. For example, what he could have done is created a nested structure where all of those default values, instead of being hard-coded and written in some file, can simply be stored in a YAML or configuration file that can be edited outside of the build, as to not waste time rebuilding the entire application in a YAML or XML format.
I'm not understanding what this means.
That's Development 101. You learn it in the first week of your new job as either an intern or a junior developer. What's even worse...
So what exactly does... I'm not understanding what that means.
All of those default... Literally anything would represent flat. Here he appears to be storing a timeline of events.
Timeline of events. What does that mean?
In a flat one-dimensional array with random numbers as the indices in order to represent said event. So literally anything would be an upgrade over what is...
What's an example of a timeline of events in a game?
For example, what he could have done is created a nested structure where all those default values, instead of being hard-coded and written in some file, can simply be stored in a YAML or configuration file that could be edited outside of the build as to not waste time rebuilding the entire application in a YAML or XML format. That's Development 101.
Okay, hold on. I'm looking at this. So in game coding, a timeline of events refers to a sequence of actions or occurrences that happened at a specific point in time, often within the game's logic or during gameplay sequences. These events can range from a simple action like object movement or animation to a more complex sequence like cutscenes or scripted events. Timelines help structure and manage the timing and order to the events. Okay. So are we saying that instead of having a timeline of events being referenced in the code and then putting the reference into another thing so you can work on it independently, he's restructuring every time, it's like sequence of events or actions every single time it comes up? So like every time there's an FM or some kind of like a gameplay sequence, or maybe there's like a quick time that's going on, or moving an object or something, he codes the movement of the object every single time rather than just coding a reference to the movement of the object so you can like you can just work on that reference by itself instead of having to rework on it. So like let's say he fucking codes moving the box every time instead of coding the reference to the moving of the box. If he codes the reference to the moving of the box, if he wants to change how the moving of the box works, all he has to do is go fuck with the file that's moving of the box. But if you code moving of the box every time, you have to recode 100 different things. Every time there's a moving of the box in the code, you now have to recode that specific instance every single time. That's what I'm hearing here. It's just unnecessarily bulky, stupid code for absolutely no reason. Is that what he's referring to?
Put it in the first week of your new job as either an intern or a junior developer. What's even worse is he now also needs to remember what 419 means. So somewhere in his code, he needs to actually add...
Maybe that's a very special number to him.
...a comment or something to represent what 419 is. As you can see here, I found the file that contains all these events, which are the association between a magic number and some state. It's very obvious that this can get very unwieldy.
Yes, he does this constantly. He pastes the same stuff over and over again instead of phoning it in. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's just ridiculous why he would do that. That doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you make your code intentionally dumb, bulky, and unnecessary?
Extremely quickly. As you can see here, he has some number associated with 0, 1, or even 2, and then he needs to detail in a comment what that means. Now, imagine a developer accidentally puts 2 here or 3. Finding, tracking, and solving that bug is really going to be a development nightmare. What if you forget?
Did he ever? I mean, well, there's a response videos, but does he like reference like why he does this? Is there some benefit to give him some kind of the benefit of the doubt of like doing it this way?
To type 3 here and it accidentally type 2 and start associating coffee cold knowledge with floor 2 coffee age, or even worse, in your code somewhere instead of typing 213, you type 214, and now need to go back and track why your game is misbehaving. This is extremely poor practice.
He's probably having AI do it anyway.
Practice and can get very messy very quickly. Not only that, but this is going to significantly decrease the velocity of your development because you're going to need to jump between the storyline vars file, find the event you want to reference somewhere else in code, and go back to that line that you'd like to reference the event in. So you're going to constantly need to be jumping between files, forgetting, potentially mistyping.
This is the path of least resistance for someone with surface level knowledge and language. Okay, is that true?
And it's just a recipe for disaster. When it comes to the nested structure,
So like, what did this motherfucker do when he was even like when he was working in Blizzard? I'm not even kidding, because if he doesn't have like basic level of knowledge, was he effectively just a permanent intern at Blizzard? Did he actually do anything like productive or constructive, or did he just claim he worked at Blizzard and like really they kind of just like fucking hated him there or something?
though, tell me what you think is better. What Thor has here or what I have on screen, which in my opinion is much more expressive. Now, this goes beyond simply liking code better. What I have on screen is objectively better because it makes it harder for you and others to make mistakes, and it's a lot clearer as to what's going on. I don't even need to know how this game is designed to understand that whatever he's doing here is not optimal. I also don't need to recommend the most optimal data structure because literally anything would be better than this. Another thing that's really, really weird is that he's using these numbers to represent people, and now everywhere he writes the number 1 and when it represents a person, he needs to remember that it's Shelly, which is presumably a game character. Imagine removing all these comments. Would you, as a newly added game developer to his game project, have any idea that 1 is Shelly?
That makes okay. So you're telling me that he constantly adds ones in there as the representation of this character, and but then he has to constantly, like, he has to explain that every single time. Okay, and so instead of just calling the character who it is, he just labels it as a number and then puts a note in there that's like unnecessarily bulky and potentially like distracting.
You would have no idea. This would never ever be allowed in a production repository. And I've been hinting, it's below what you'd expect of a bottom tier intern.
Damn.
One way to improve this is to write case and then switch on an enumeration. So case character Shelly. That is way, way better to whatever he has here.
Maybe he thinks 1 is quicker to do than type out Shelly?
Another example is that
like maybe in his defense, but well, he has to write a note every time then, but whatever. Maybe in his defense, it's like, oh, I just put the 1 in there because then it's just a 1 and it's harder to get wrong than typing the name Shelly. I don't...
159. More magic numbers, 32. What does message 32 mean? What does message 65 mean? What does message 97 mean? And what are these dialogue options 2, 5, 6, 0? This is a culmination of my past couple of comments, all in one steaming pile of... Surprisingly, that is all the code that I can find in these game developer streams.
This is the game that I work on. It's called Hardbound. Now understand something. Before I send you this link, do not buy my game.
Okay. I'm sure he's being genuine when he says don't buy his game, but it seems like actually good advice.
Listen, dude.
Wait a minute. I want to watch the second one. This is actually so fascinating. So Pirate Software responds.
What is up, guys? Coding Jesus here. Guys, in today's video, I want to review the top contentions that not only Pirate Software had, but a lot of his fanboys had with my video yesterday, in which I reviewed the code that he wrote.
Does he really have fanboys? That's crazy.
For his game Hardbound.
I just have chum chums.
Now, while the video was a stunning success in terms of engagement, there was a couple of themes that kept repeating from detractors that I think are worth addressing in a separate video.
Yeah, he worked at Blizzard for 7 years. What do you know?
So let's get into it. The first claim that I saw time and time again is that your code quality shouldn't matter if you're a solo game dev, and that code quality only somehow matters if you work in a team.
What? That doesn't make any sense. But see, this is the problem, is that, like, okay, sure. If the biggest complaint against Thor is that hit the quality, because in this instance, the quality is the organization of the content, or the organization of the code. So the quality, like, it should be more organized. Well, that doesn't matter, because it's a single person making it. But, like, wouldn't you have learned to do certain things with a team working for Blizzard for so long that they would just be like ingrained in you? And so to me, if anything, at the very least, this communicates to me that like he never really worked on a team, no?
Now, you'd think that if you're working on a passion project, you'd be interested in holding yourself to the highest possible standard, since you can make your own decisions, free of any corporate timeline, and not subject to demands of other employees. You know, they say this with such confidence, as if poor code is not going to hold you back in your own development process, and you're somehow impervious to the effects of your poor decisions as long as you make those bad decisions yourself. Usually when you work with a team, you can get away with poorer code because you won't need to deal with the consequences of that code as you...
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, is there a potential here that pirate software would make sloppy shit code when he worked for fucking Blizzard, and he would just piss people off, and they'd have to like go back and like, oh goddamn, we have to stop fucking with this. Is that why Blizzard always get DDoSed on fucking patch day? Because pirate software sucks its code? Chat?
You pawn it off to somebody else and work on something totally separate. But as a solo developer, you need to deal with and contend directly with all the trade-offs that you make as you make those decisions while you code your game or your project or your whatever. In other words, every decision you make will either make life easier for you or harder for you down the line. As technical debt accumulates, you bear the entire burden of that debt, which slows down development. Now, for those of you who aren't technical debt is a term that refers to the extra work you're going to need to put in down the line.
I mean, that makes sense. It's like some kind of time debt. I get it.
Because you currently made a decision that was not ideal. So
Sure.
you are delivering something.
He didn't code for Blizzard. He also has no formal education in CS. He went to university to study ants. Wait, then what the fuck did he do at Blizzard?
Faster today, only to slow down future delivery tomorrow, the day after, the week after, the month after, etc. It's kind of like a ball and chain that's tied around your leg, and every step you take forward, that ball grows and grows and grows, which decreases the velocity of your development. Now, the fact that Heartbound has taken over 8 years to development and is still in early access, despite the fact that the game took inspiration from Undertale, which took less time to make and provided more content,
Yeah, and then also has an original idea that they had to maximize.
is a reflection of the fact that code quality is important and it will stifle your development if you do not take it seriously. And it's kind of ironic because the same people that are trying to make excuses for poor
He was a quality... Oh, he did QA. He did quality assurance and a GM. That's it? Okay. So he worked for Blizzard, what, fucking, like, just jacking off?
code are the same people that
He was a fucking grunt that had, like, bare minimum knowledge of how to implement the rules. Got it. Okay.
actually play the game and are expecting features to be delivered. I don't care if his code's poor in the sense that it doesn't impact me directly. Yeah, I might care from a technical perspective to try to reconcile his game development experience or his game industry experience with who he claims to be and what he produces, but I'm not going to play his game. I don't care for his game. And the same people that do care for his game are the same people that say that it's okay for the game code to be slop, when in fact they're waiting on those same features that require the game code to be clean in order to develop and do so quickly.
I mean, he's got a good point. I mean, he's arguing that the reason that it's taking so fucking long is because the guy has such inefficient dog shit code that he can't deliver on the promise of a game that's supposed to be for these fans. And so these fans are basically not getting the product that they're asking for. I would assume that they would actually want the product, though. I guess that's maybe that's a little bit too forward of me to assume. I would assume that they actually want this fucking product, but they're not getting this product because and I would imagine that part of it's because his code sucks dick.
Now, I think that my views here can really be summarized in a dialogue that I had with Quinthio when I jumped on his stream yesterday and talked a bit more about the video. The practices that he's employed so far are practices that I'd expect from somebody that watched Khan Academy for a week, not somebody that's been
What is that? Is that supposed to be like is that that's just some kind of like videos to help to teach people how to code?
working on a project for 8 years.
Dude, that's fucking crazy to me. And like maybe it's not or maybe it's not Thor's fault, but like I always assumed that he actually did coding at Blizzard because that's kind of like the way he makes it seem like, or maybe that's just what I picked up on. I don't know. Maybe that one might be on me, but it just kind of seems like, I thought he was more important than like a fucking nobody throwaway at Blizzard, because that's what he is. That's what you are. Like when you do that kind of shit, it's like, it's fine, do your thing. I'm just saying, it's like you're a throwaway nobody. Like, like you really are just like a fucking throwaway.
Claims to, worked at Blizzard and been around game devs, or at some certain points claimed that he's a game dev. If he just came and said, this is what I produced, I learned game dev for 1 or 2 weeks, Khan Academy, I spent an hour or two every day, I'd say
Code Academy is like coding slap courses for beginners. That makes sense.
hey, that's actually good progress. But to come and claim that you're some like authority in the space, this is the code you've produced, to me, there is a massive disconnect between what you say you're capable of based off your background and what you've produced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that really comes down to the heart of this critique of that claim, and that is that Pirate Software is constantly portraying himself as this sort of expert authority on everything that's wrong about nothing, and uses all this hyperbolic language and associations when in reality, what he's tangibly produced is below what you'd expect from a junior developer or even.
That's just funny. I mean, that adds up, but it's again, it's so interesting after watching the conversation with Dr. K. Is Pirate Software has a habit of just basically brushing off all criticism as like, oh, you think I'm rude and egotistical, and so instead of being like, no, the problem is that like you're wrong, but being egotistical makes us hate, like not hate you more. The problem is that like he just goes, oh, so you think I'm an asshole, so you won't listen to what I have to say, and he brushes off everybody who doesn't listen to what he has to say because he's a smug dick about how he says things, but he's also not only is a smug dick, but he's wrong about it. He's an incorrect smug dick about it. That's like there's a fucking compounding issue.
An intern.
People call me the Bob Ross of programming, which I think is a pretty big honor because I like Bob Ross's
Who the fuck calls him the Bob Ross of programming?
stuff.
Did he name himself that just so that he can fucking think he's cool?
Here, for example, he didn't say directly, I'm Bob Ross. He said, everybody thinks I'm Bob Ross of programming.
Who says that?
What does that mean? It's trying to paint the picture that there's a broad consensus that you are the best
fucking cool
developer
asshole.
out there, and you are the go-to guy for anything related to game programming, which is
Well, there's also like an aspect of it that it's like, oh, he's insinuating he's fucking wholesome. Get the fuck out of here. I'm the Bob Ross programmer, guys. I'm so wholesome. 'Cause that's what that is to me. You're fucking telling me that you're a wholesome creator.
his niche.
You're a hacker. Like that's where you like kind of started.
Actual hacker.
I'm an actual hacker.
An actual hacker. Like,
Yes,
not like
yes.
I'm a hacker. No, you're an actual
Not a
hacker.
kidding.
You've
Yeah.
won.
Like an actual hacker.
Yeah,
Yeah, my last job was hacking power plants for the federal government. I
Yeah.
worked for the United States Department of Energy.
Also work for Blizzard. I don't believe that at all, by the way. I don't believe any of that shit. Okay? And just to be clear, a fucking hacker, suck my balls. You want to know what that means? He did fucking like low-end cybersecurity. Just so you guys know. That's what you do. I'm a hacker for the government. Dude, this guy got a fucking associate's degree in computer science. And then he went and he... I'm not even kidding. This is what this is. And then he went and he tried to find holes in some different programs. This is like such a normal, basic, like fucking associate's degree thing. That's literally an associate's degree thing. Cybersecurity. There's an associate's in cybersecurity that you get, so you can try to like poke holes in like firewalls and be like, hey guys, there's an issue here. You're gonna have to address this at some point. This guy's acting like he was this fucking uber hacker that he's like fucking guys, I am anonymous. Get the fuck out of here, dude. He's not anything.
So dude walks up.
This guy had the fucking cold call buy me $5,000 worth of Target gift cards job.
With a laptop and a suit, and you lean over to who's that guy?
Whoa.
That's the hacker
That's Bob Ross of coding.
from the
Yeah,
government.
that's the hacker.
It's even worse 'cause we go in like
Like
3 to
what?
4 man teams, man. So like we've got a team. Of
Oh, you
dudes.
We got a team of hackers. It's like fucking 4 sweaty guys sitting around here, like fucking chugging caffeinated beverages, trying to figure out how to like slightly find out the first letter of someone's password.
Looking
Fleet.
like
You had
this.
like a team
Yeah.
of dudes in
It
suits,
wasn't just-
They were a team of hackers, guys. It was fucking cool.
holding laptops,
Yeah,
walking into
exactly.
restricted areas. Okay.
When he says things like this, what he's trying to paint in your mind as a viewer is that he's some sort of Unit 8200 Mossad agent writing zero-day exploits
Fucking Mossad agent's crazy.
on USBs that are snuck into Iranian nuclear facilities and that infest and shut down the entire technical operation of that nuclear power plant. When in reality, if you look at his LinkedIn and reconcile it against his skill set, what he did was social engineering. He wrote phishing emails and tried to gain access to credentials and use.
Oh, dude, I was trolling. I was trolling when I said that he's basically just like a fucking. He's just trying to get you to give him $5,000 worth of fucking of Target gift cards. I was trolling when I was trolling. I was trolling. Dude, I was trolling. I wasn't serious, but I was right. I was trolling when I said he would just fucking cold call. Ma'am, do not redeem it. Pirate Software literally told Mams not to redeem it. That was his fucking job, and he's acting like he was an Uber hacker. That's insane. This is funny.
User systems that way. And so all this really
This is so funny.
culminates in the
This is pathetic, dude. Holy fuck. Dude, he's jerking himself off over some of the dumbest jobs ever.
disconnect between who Thor plays himself up to be and then what he can
Oh
produce.
my God.
Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that his GitHub is also totally empty. It's empty because he has nothing to show for his 20 years of experience as a veteran in the space.
Dude, this video is actually fucking like destructive to Thor's character, and it's not even like defamation. It's just honesty. It's insane.
Now, Pirate himself also responded, and he got a bit hung up on the fact that my mouse had some variable highlighted, despite the fact that I never talked about that variable. It's actually quite funny because
Dude, I'm literally getting a spam call right now, bro. It's fucking Pirate Software. He's trying to get me. He's trying to not to make me not redeem the Target gift card. You know what's so funny? I actually did. I actually unironically got like an email that was like, oh, thank you for your $500 biannual purchase of like some subscription, blah blah blah. Call this number to cancel it. It's like, okay, yeah, that's definitely real.
I refer to every variable other than the one that he referred to
This is fucking crazy.
in his reply. But skipping over that, he makes the claim that you can't define a Boolean in GameMaker because GameMaker itself doesn't have a native Boolean type in its scripting language. In other words,
What
it
the fuck is GameMaker? Is that like a legit service, or is that like fucking like cringe?
interprets reals as Booleans. Now, to reconcile the fact that he used a Boolean in his code with what he said, I decided to do what any developer would do, and that is I consulted the documentation. So if you go to data types in GameMaker, oh, look at that. You are also provided with constants, true and false, which can always be used in your code to prevent any issues, should the native Boolean type be defined later. So GML defines constants true as 1 and false as 0, and the documentation itself even recommends that you use true and false instead of reals in case that association between a Boolean and a real
Are you telling me that my Pirate Software lied? I don't believe it.
ever gets changed to a
I
Boolean in
can't
some
believe this.
other native definition of a Boolean. So in other words, if they ever replace
It's like RPG Maker, but more technical. So it's like actually like the legit service you're supposed to use. Is that what you're saying?
the aliasing of bools for reals with
Bools.
bools for actual bools, they recommend that you use true and false. But we know he's not going to concede on this point or admit the fact that he was wrong, given his track record. So let's
Well, he was a hacker. He was a hacker in India.
move on to the next claim. Another comment that I've seen is that you've never worked with GameMaker, so you must not know what you're talking about. Another equally absurd variant of this is what he's writing is not C++, or anybody who has worked with technology or more than one programming language understands that languages are just toolkits. Each toolkit is uniquely positioned to solve a given problem. Now, while there might be unique features in every toolkit, essentially there's a lot of overlap. Okay? An integer in one language is going to be very similar to an integer in another.
Yeah, it sounds like there's multiple. It's like yeah, I understand what he's saying. Like there might be multiple different, programming whatevers, but they all have the same fundamentals. So you should be able to somewhat seamlessly switch between the two of them. It's like if you're doing 3D modeling in like Maya versus Blender, like, yeah, you'll have to learn some interface things, but at the end of the day, you're working with the same fundamentals. So 70% of the other program, even if you don't actually use that specific program. That makes perfect sense. It's literally the same as playing a fucking video game. It's like if you're a big fan of like MMORPGs, every MMORPG is going to be 70% the same. But there's going to be difference. Like you're going to level in all of them. You're going to pick a character. You're going to pick a class in some capacity. You're going to level in all of them. There's probably going to be some kind of PvP. There's going to be dungeons. There's going to be raids. There's going to be groups and parties. You're probably going to have companions at this point. There's going to be quality of life features. You're going to have a mount. You're going to be able to cast a fireball. There's going to be some kind of mage. There's going to be some type of rogue, some type of warrior, some type of paladin, some type of crusader. That's what this is. It's just like it's a different MMO. It's a different fucking video game, or it's a different coding. Like it's a different like coding program. It's literally the same fucking thing. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's why like people who play MMOs are going to be better at a new MMO than somebody who doesn't play MMOs at all.
Every language is going to have for loops, etc., etc. So while the actual toolkit might be different, the same principle
Do I play around with 3D modeling? I used to use Maya. Like I went to a game and web design college. The problem was that like after the beginner class, they were basically shutting the program down. So the person they got for us to do it had no idea how to use Maya, and they used AutoCAD. like because they were actually like an engineer, and so it was just like a fucking waste of my time for the next fucking 2 years. So I learned like very basic stuff, but then like I was never able to like advance in the program or I was never able to like use it outside in any meaningful capacity because we had such like a dog shit teacher.
Principles, patterns, and design decisions should apply in large part to any problem that you're trying to solve. The only difference is the tools that you use to solve that problem are going to be a little different. What does that look like in practice? Take that code snippet, alarm 0 equals 0, alarm 1 equals 0, alarm 2 equals 0.
Oh, wait,
You don't need to copy and paste that code every single time. I'd expect an intern or somebody learning code in Khan Academy to copy and paste. You can simply replace that all with a for loop. So what does it say about somebody that they haven't even considered to use a for loop for something as simple as this? If there's something that I regret, it's not being able to provide more substantive feedback. If you look at plenty of my other videos where I do...
Well, it seems like it's hard to do because he doesn't really have anything on the screen. He like basically doesn't actually fucking program on the screen when he says he's going to.
A code review, I go into line by line the GitHub repository and break it down for my viewers, both saying what went well and what didn't go well and how can it be improved. But Thor didn't give me, or really anybody, the chance to do that with his code because all he does is share snippets and screenshots.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And despite that, this guy is still going super in depth. So it's actually kind of funny. He's still like very in depth on his shit, which is probably something that scares Thor quite a bit. Yeah, it's the same thing as if you use like fucking like Microsoft Word versus like the fucking Notepad or whatever. It's, you know.
You also shouldn't be representing an entire entity made up of health, position, maybe whether they're dead or alive, their ID, their inventory, as a number or an index into some array. That's not how you present character models or entities in game design. And I don't even need to be a game developer to understand that. I just watch 1 or 2 videos of the Cherno and I already know that's the case. So hopefully you guys found this video informative or interesting. I'm going to now move on to other news. So unless anything new comes out that I think I can bring my unique perspective to, I'm going to put Pirate Software behind me and just keep moving forward.
Makes sense, even though there's one more video.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. Cheers.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, listen, I want to watch this last one. I'm fucking.
Listen,
this
dude.
is so funny, honestly. It's so funny, and you don't even really need to, you don't even need to understand coding to understand why this guy is correct. It's so funny.
The idea is pretty clear here. Just how absolutely abysmal this is for performance.
What's up, guys? CJ here.
Oh, he reviewed his off-stream code.
Now, in my last video on this topic, I mentioned that. So unless anything new comes out that I think I can bring my unique perspective to, I'm going to put Pirate Software behind me and just keep moving forward. One of Thor's criticisms of that video, when he wasn't busy trying to smear me as a grifter...
It's just another, like, YouTube grifter trying to fight for relevance, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Every single time he just says that somebody's grifting or somebody's just, like, being dishonest or blah, blah, blah. It's the same fucking bullshit every time. He's such a loser.
It's all that shit is.
Despite the fact that my channel has been consistent for the past 5 years...
Everybody's a grifter.
...is that I wasn't specific enough.
He just wants
You
attention.
can review languages,
He
many
wants attention.
concepts are transferable. Concepts can be transferable, but specifics are not, and that's the problem.
Today's video sponsor is me. I built this platform called GetCracked.io, which focuses on covering everything that is not lead code related to the technical interview for languages like Python,
Catch your bag, baby.
Rust, C++. That involves concepts like language knowledge, networking, operating systems, concurrency, computer architecture, etc. As you can see, we have over 600 problems that will really test and sharpen your skill set. Check it out. And so I figured maybe I can look for new information that I can bring my unique perspective to. Other creators, including myself, have covered the code snippets that he has shared publicly on stream. And so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I can address Thor's critique by finding code that he's written off stream to really get into the details? So I decided to scour Pirate's website on the Wayback Machine and notice that he actually included his source code resources as early as 2018. Just to be clear, these are the resources for his demo version of Heartbound. I was able to extract the code that he's
Okay, so they can be kind of like old and potentially not 100% accurate, I guess is the potential like claim from Thor. Or
written
would be
using data.win and the Undertale mod tool, and I'd like to focus on that for today's code review. Now, I know that a lot of people might be thinking, why are you doing a review on old code? Well, I decided to
It's the only thing that's fucking available.
compare that 2018 version of the code that Thor himself distributed with the code available in the demo version of Heartbound, and at least at the places that I found major issues, there wasn't any difference. Now, I also want to stress that this video is going to be made in line with my own values as a developer. That being that we are reviewing mistakes so that others can learn from them. And in doing so, I will be providing
Fuck it, dude. Do it. We're reviewing mistakes to bully this guy.
alternative solutions. That doesn't mean that my solutions are the best improvement that can be made or a silver bullet that can apply in every scenario, but it will give you an idea for a general direction that you might want to take your own project in case you encounter similar issues throughout your development. Now, I'm going to be categorizing
Yeah, right. You attack the person that's making the argument, so the actual argument, because he literally cannot. He has no claim on the actual argument.
issues in this review based off their priority or severity, rather. So we're going to be starting with large or major issues, then going to medium or intermediate issues, and then ending off with small or minor issues. So let's get into it. I want to start by observing.
Shit. Well, they compared him to Yandere Dove before, and he had a couple of minor issues. Oh wait, no, that was a different video. That wasn't this video. Different video we watched.
Taking a look at the file draw light.
They were just saying that this code was bad.
Let's take a look at this draw light method and hone in on the first case statement. Let's break down at a high level what's going on here. Thor loops over every pixel in a sprite, checking if each pixel touches or overlaps with a certain object. If it does, it then applies a light effect repeatedly, and with each repeat, it makes that light fade more diffuse. He then draws said colored pixels at that location to simulate the light fall off. Now, let's say your sprite is 128 by 128 pixels. That's 16,384 position checks he's doing per frame per light source.
That sounds like a lot.
If he has multiple light sources or is trying to run at 60 FPS, you will feel the lag. Now, he actually checks collisions twice
So what do you do instead?
for each pixel, and he doesn't have any early exit.
Also, do you need to check collisions for something like this?
Should his second instance of that check not execute. If light diffuse is 5, it's possible that he does an additional 4 iterations that returns false every single time. In the case that we have the exact same 128 by 128 pixel sprite, that is not just 16,384 checks. That's 98,304 checks at worst. What's worse is if you observe the second case, where light comes from the right instead of the left, you'll notice that Thor copied and pasted the entire left code into the right code's case, only changing the signage of light distance. What he could have done here is handled both right and left in the same case and simply applied the signage to light distance based off the direction of the light, and also applied the direction in which we iterate in the for loop differently based off that same signage. How do we improve upon the code here? Well, we really don't. We throw it out in favor of layers, surfaces, and shaders. I decided to bring on a game dev who has years of experience in GameMaker, working not only on his own hobby projects, but also as a contractor for
This guy's made his fucking life's mission right now to just fucking make Thor look like an idiot, and it's so funny.
a studio in order to explain this fundamental concept.
I'll just draw a little diagram. This is basically how his code works. Is he has a sprite that basically looks something like this. This is sort of like a beam shape, kind of what you'd expect from like a beam of light. For every pixel in the sprite, so each one of these is a pixel, it's basically going in the draw event and doing a collision check at like each pixel. And it's basically checking and checking and checking. And if the pixel is on the sprite, it'll draw it. This is the starting point over here. And the farther away the pixel is from the starting point, it like blends it differently, and that'll create some kind of gradients. But yeah, this is a terrible way of doing it.
You're saying he just has invisible things existing all the time and only coming into view so that it looks like an effect is happening? Is that what he's saying?
I drew, like 5 pixels here. This is like super scaled up. A sprite like this would be like hundreds and hundreds of pixels. And to check each of them on the X and the Y like coordinate, like every single frame for every single like object doing this is going to be like abysmal for performance. The way that I had suggested would be better is you have the sprite, same one, and also any other sprites you want to do this with. So keep in mind, if you're using this system, every single other object that's like a light beam or whatever is going to have to run this code like independently of each other. With this method, all the objects at once, say you just have some random other objects over here, they also wanted to be light sources or something, I guess. All of them at once can draw themselves onto a surface. A surface is basically a picture almost, just made of pixels. You can make them any size you want, but in this case, all we'd have to do is make the surface the size of the camera. This would basically just be starting point, wherever the camera is in the room, right here. And these are all the objects that the camera would be seeing. We would just create a white surface, basically, just a surface that is just completely opaque. And these objects will draw themselves onto the surface. And before they do that, they'll set their GPU blend mode to subtract. So what that does basically is if I were to draw like this square here onto this white surface while the GPU mode is in subtract, it'll basically just erase right here. Like it'll take a chunk out of this white surface basically. And this area here will be like transparent on the surface. Like the pixels will have an alpha of 0, meaning you'll just be able to see through them basically. So all these objects just need to draw themselves onto this white surface. And this basically makes it like, it's kind of like they're like little cutouts basically. And then what you do is you have a separate surface, and this is very common. A lot of lighting systems will use a surface like what I'm about to describe, where it's just completely like transparent, and then any light sources or gradients or light beams, whatever, draw themselves onto this surface. Most lighting systems you'll see, unless they're using shaders, they'll usually use a surface like this, where they will draw any lights. Think of this as like a gradient. Draw any lights they want just onto this surface, basically. Usually they'll use some fancy stuff with blend modes and all that to make it look good. Literally doesn't matter here. And then what you do is you take this surface, you set the blend mode to subtract.
Okay, I think I'm understanding what's happening here. What this guy's talking about sounds like instead of constantly having a ton of unnecessary shit that's going to lag the fuck out of your machine and destroy it, you're going to do something more complicated that saves a tremendous amount of processing power. And Thor's not doing that. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like Thor is doing it easier because he doesn't really know what he's doing. It has the same general effect, but it's easier for him to do. That's what it sounds like to me.
Again, and you draw it on top of this surface. So you set the target surface to this one, and then you draw this surface on top of it, basically. And that will result in this surface. I guess I'll draw the result surface here. It'll basically result in only the transparent parts of this surface will remain like on this surface. So see right here we have this little beam shape. So you'd only be able to see like the parts of this little circle gradient basically through this cutout shape, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you'll still have your light diffuse or light fall off there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy sounds a little like Tim Pool. That's what he sounded like. I'm like, why does this guy sound familiar?
And you can make this, I mean, another limitation of this only goes, from what I can tell, directly like right or directly left. It does not seem to be able to rotate or go up and down. Now, I suppose you could do some weird stuff to get it to rotate, like maybe draw it onto a separate surface and rotate it, but it's still very suboptimal. With this, let's say I wanted to rotate this beam. This beam right here is going directly to the right. I could literally just draw it like this, like in a different direction. And the gradient would remain the same. It would be a lot easier. You wouldn't have to do any weird, trickery to get it to do that. What I'm saying is this sort of method supports like any shapes and any orientation, and it's much, much better for performance, like drastically.
To really
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, but Thor doesn't know how to do it, I'm assuming.
reinforce why this is classified as a major issue in Pirate Software's code, Level 5 Fish decided to profile it against its own surface-based implementation. The comparison code is available on GitHub, linked in the description, and the full 7-minute explanation by Level 5 Fish is available for my patrons and junior dev level channel members. Here's the 2-minute summary.
So I've taken the lighting code and I've imported it into GameMaker. Now, the only things I've changed are this line right here, where it says it's just a conditional basically, and I've just replaced it with true, meaning it's always going to run. And the reason for doing that is because whenever this was here, it would
no efficiency at all. He doesn't know how to achieve that. He would basically copy paste over and over when there would be a way easier, better way. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. This is fucking. It's funny how bad he is at. It's so funny how like literally him being bad at World of Warcraft and not being able to admit it has turned into people seeing how bad he is at his actual job he pretends that he did for a long time, which is coding and being a epic elite hacker that basically boiled down to do not redeem it, ma'am, because that's really all Pirate Software is.
just flicker. So I just took it out. The other thing is I've added this variable here. This will allow us to track how many times a pixel is drawn. So every time this line is run, it will add to this value here. If I press T, it'll display that value, and we can see how many times it's running and how many times it's doing a collision check. I have this sprite here. This is a 800 by 100 sprite. So somewhat large, but not absurdly large, and is not something that's like unrealistic to see in actual projects by any means. I've added it here to this room. It's using this lighting script to draw sort of a gradient of light over it. So we're going to see what happens when I run the project. We have kind of a gradient rectangle basically, but I don't know if you notice something. We are getting less than 20 FPS. That code is running the collision check and the drawing the pixels 80,000 times. I've also gone and
Guys, that sounds like the most efficient way to do this, no?
created the system that I had previously described that
That's
involves
fucking
using
crazy.
surfaces. So here it is. It's the same sprite, the same rectangle, except it's using this other lighting system. This one right here that I've created. So let's see what happens when I run this project. As you can see, it looks basically the same, except, oh wow, our FPS is actually there. I'm actually going to run this in debug mode, and debug mode will allow us to run a profiler, which actually will tell us basically what percentage of performance each one of these objects are using. This was the lighting code created by Pirate Software. It is using 99.675% of performance, roughly. hopefully. This is the implementation that I came up with, and I'll note it's really nothing complex. It's not super.
What the fuck? I'm like looking at the numbers. On the screen it says Pirate Software's lighting system is 418 times worse. So that sounds to me like it's drawing on 418 times the resources in your game for a lighting effect, which lighting effects are very important because lighting effects are arguably more important than the way models look, because like lighting is going to cast a lot of depth and it's going to make like a lot of realism pop, right? So if you're having trouble making your game like look good, it's probably the lighting. That's why a lot of things look better in the dark, especially like models that are supposed to look like human beings, because like we're humans, so we can see things more effectively. We can parse against like the way that we know other humans are supposed to look. They look better in darkness because like lighting is different. When it's like bright out, a lot of times like that's where you'll be able to potentially find any issues.
Difficult, I think, for most people to make something similar. 0.238% performance.
It's actually really funny and almost ironic because if you think about it, one of the big things about classic, like old school games is that, and what I like about them is that you have a finite amount of resources compared to today, so they had to do interesting shit to make things work. So they'd have to be like clever and do like interest. It's like how the older Mario Karts for the N64 weren't 3D; they were like 2D sprites that would articulate themselves, and they would just like fucking. It would just change the positioning, and it just looked so cool. And it was like, oh, that's a really cool way to. That's just like a really cool. That's just cool. I find that to be really interesting and cool. Pirate wouldn't be able to do that. He wouldn't be able to do anything. He would be completely ineffective at writing old games. And it's funny because he doesn't respect any old game practices, like actually owning them, being able to own your own games.
The idea is pretty clear here. Just how absolutely abysmal this is for performance.
I now want to move on to an issue that I would classify as having medium severity, and that is the way that Pirate structures dialogue in this game. Now, the way that he does so is via a two-dimensional array called Dialogue Array, similar to the one-dimensional array that he had for his event timeline. For every single language and every scene, he checks in a GML file that contains this 2D dialogue array. This adds a lot of bloat to your code, makes it less navigatable, and also it limits scalability. So as you can see here, each language in each scene has its own file. He also has another 2D array called voice list. Now, the first index of voice list is character, and the second is the emotion that character feels. As you can see, if character 1 has emotion 2, well, then this is the sound file that he refers to. If character 1 has emotion 19, well, then I guess this magic number just needs to do. Now, how did I know that the first index is a character and the second is the emotion? Well, I wouldn't know just by looking at this. I would have to search for voice list, and it just so happens that this is the only part of his code where
is it going to be more unorganized dog shit?
I'm able to tell that the first index is character index, and the second index is the selected emotion for that character. What I would do, instead of checking in these files, would be to ship them with my game's local files and assets. I would then partition the dialogue assets by localization. Notice how in my chapter1.json file, we have scenes, and scenes has multiple keys, each the name of a particular scene. We start off with Book Dream Intro, which was the name of one of his files that contained a bunch of dialogue. We then go through every dialogue within the list of Book Dream Intro. Each of those nodes contains a speaker, a dialogue ID, a text, emotion, volume, replies, and optionally a next scene if we need to move forward.
So this sounds like an organization issue, right?
Speaker will pull up the sprite for Ralph. Dialogue ID can be used to reference said dialogue node later. Text is what we display on screen. Emotion relates to the voice that's being used. We also have an optional list of replies. By optional, I mean it can either be empty or it can contain several nodes. Each one of those nodes contains a text and a next scene. So once a user selects one of those nodes, for example, selects the no you didn't, the next scene moves on to the denial
you didn't
response. As you can see, the denial response scene also has its own separate speaker, text, dialogue ID, volume, replies, and pushes you to the next scene. There's really 101 ways to build up on what I just suggested. None of what I mentioned includes obfuscation or saving of dialogue options, but it's better than what exists currently. In fact, it's probably the bare minimum you'd expect from somebody with 8 years of experience in GameMaker. Now let's move on to the minor category. There are several things I'd like to bring up, and I'll try to do so as quickly as possible.
I feel like the fucking the particle shit from before was like the smoking gun.
First criticism is useless code. Thor's code is littered with it. Take a look at this case, for example. It contains a switch statement that switches on an object index, but doesn't actually do anything with that index. Instead, it defaults to the damage polarity, either 1 or -1. I've never seen anybody write code like this. Interns that I've mentored, junior developers, it's just really odd and doesn't do anything. A static code analyzer will most likely pick up on this. Many IDEs either come with them built in or support third-party static code tools, so if you're not already using one, consider doing so. You'd also think that a
do
game...
they pick up on it to tell you to get rid of it, or are you saying that it ships with the game, so like unnecessary shit like this is just going to be parsed out?
as art-rich as this would have some sort of color palette instead of just hard-coding colors. The next is unexplained constants. They are everywhere. I brought this up in my original video, and a lot of people said that the magic numbers I referred to weren't really magic numbers because you can use IntelliSense to tell what the actual parameter names are associated with those numbers. Putting aside the fact that nobody should need to hover over a method for 2 seconds to tell what the actual parameters stand for, let alone do this for over 20 methods, magic numbers in their purest form are everywhere in Thor's code. There's at least half a dozen in each file, maybe even more. Take a look at the 100 million here for active color, or the 765 that aren't really explained. In many places where Thor performs I/O operations, he never first checks whether or not that file exists, or whether or not he has permissions to read from or write to that file. Therefore, he never actually handles any exceptions or errors that may result from said operations. Now, I want to make this very clear. If this is your first time coding,
I understood like the big stuff. I don't understand like this minor stuff that he's referring to.
On you. The purpose of this channel is not to discourage, it's to encourage. But what we're seeing here is a repeated pattern of behavior of somebody that claims to have over 8 years worth of experience.
Yeah, this is something that would like if all these issues were done by somebody who just started a video gaming class, then it would be great. Like, oh, you did really well, but here's some stuff that you can improve. If you're somebody that's been claiming to be in the industry for fucking, what is it, 2 decades, he said, you're pathetic, right?
At least in GameMaker, and 20 years of experience in the game industry as a developer. But, contrary to how much experience they should have, how much they brag about their accomplishments, there's a massive incongruity between what they can produce and who they say they are. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing.
I wonder if he actually believes he's as good as he says. I wonder if he actually believes that he's like fucking gaslit himself into thinking that he's actually like worth something, but he's just another fucking Nepo baby that shouldn't be as successful as he is. I wonder.
It goes a long way. If you guys would like to go above and beyond, consider becoming a member or
It's
patron.
fucking just pathetic that he's 40 years old without any self-awareness.
You guys get access to a bunch of really cool and exclusive perks. I want to shout out GeekyBit, Level 5 Fish, and Kevin Core Devs for helping to make this video a reality. For those of you that want to check out their links, those of them that want to feature their links will have their links featured on screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.
The idea is
All right, good video, man. I mean, I have really nothing else to say. This guy, it's clearly knows his stuff, and Thor's clearly a fucking idiot.